Riter Radio, episode 238. That's going to be a problem. Speaker, I hear it echoing already. All right, we're good. What's happening? It is Wednesday. Like, Wednesday's way better than I like Tuesdays. And not just because Bob Gaughan's going to join me today, but that's a part of it. Love talking to Bob. Bob's got some stuff. I mean, NFL playoffs are coming. College football stuff is going on. Portal stuff is going on. John Harbaugh got fired yesterday. You know, why not write down John on the sheet of paper when it's that easy? When there are two brothers, you know both of them equally. They both start with J. Why not just write down John? I'm going to write it now at the top because that's the first thing I want to discuss. We mentioned a bunch of the sort of Black Monday firings in the NFL yesterday, and none of that was super intriguing, surprising, whatever. John Harbaugh immediately becomes the number one candidate for every job that is open on the market, and makes me for the first time think, if things don't go exceptionally well for the next month here with the Bills, I have not ever at any point been a fire McDermott guy or a fire Bean. Like, I want them around. What they've done to turn things around here has been remarkable. And the culture is real. Like, it's a real thing. There's a vibe with the team. Look no further than guys who keep leaving and coming back. Like, they want to be around it. You get Matt Prater's 41 talking about this being the best room he's ever been in. And I know things can get a little exaggerated, but they've built a situation where guys either feel comfortable talking about it being the best place they've ever been, or maybe they feel compelled, like, oh, well, that's how we talk here. Either way, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you talk about how great it is, even if you don't, you're like, well, everybody keeps saying it's great. I guess I'll say it's great too. And I'm not saying that's the case, but even if that is the case, it's like a fake it till you make it situation where if you just keep saying this place is awesome, it becomes awesome. Go out to eat at a restaurant, you're like, this is delicious. The person next to you is like, yeah, this really is good. Ooh, this is nice. Yeah, this is. And next thing you know, you all love the restaurant. And maybe you didn't all love the restaurant, but the group dynamic is we love this restaurant. The Bills love being the Bills. And I think McDermott is to be credited for that. First and foremost, I think that's the main thing he's done, is created a sense of pride, a sense of camaraderie, that was foreign to this team for many years leading up to his arrival. And for that reason, at no point have I thought he's got to go because Mahomes beat him with 13 seconds left. There's always something. Every year you don't win the Super Bowl, you didn't do it right, I guess. But I also recognize that only 1 out of 32 teams wins the Super Bowl every year, and it's very unlikely to do so. And for that reason, I never participate in the fire McDermott conversation, in large part because when someone wants someone fired, I need the answer to replace him with whom. Now, it's going to take the Bills crashing and burning against the Jaguars this Sunday to even get into that conversation, I think, because I believe... I mean, I can't imagine Harbaugh's phone hasn't, or his agent's phone, whatever. Like, there are 6 openings right now. 6 teams should have been in contact with John Harbaugh yesterday. He may have interviewed already. He may have been offered a job already. None of this would surprise me. Shocking to see a guy with his track record on the market. A very well-respected, super successful NFL head coach let go for the reason I think that the Bills would consider walking away from Sean McDermott. I'm not saying to do it. I'm just saying this is the first time that I thought the stars could line up here to where if it's determined this guy can't get us over the top, and I don't think it will be. This is not me calling for it. This is just me opening my eyes to it for the first time since he's been here. I haven't liked the way that seasons have ended. I haven't liked the way the playoff games have ended. But they've got a chance to go win a few games here and be champions. And I'm not ruling that out by any stretch. I'm not, confidently planning on it. I didn't book tickets to attend anything anywhere. No flights or hotels have been even looked into. I'm not counting on any of it. But I am saying that John Harbaugh's name being out there as a possibility makes me think a little bit differently if tragedy were to strike and the Bills would get knocked out this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they're going to be in good shape. I think they've got the best player in the league. I hope a week off makes him healthier and more comfortable moving around, less pain, more willing to willing is the wrong word when it comes to Josh Allen. There's nothing I've seen him unwilling to do, but you can tell he hasn't been quite himself from a whether it's a foot or an ankle or whatever, but like the acceleration when he sees an opening to just take off and go, it hasn't quite been the same the last few weeks or month or so. And that's the only thing that's got me a little bit hesitant. I'm okay with personnel. I think the injury list has been excessive, but I think you're going to find that the vast majority of that is cleaned up in time for Sunday's game. We'll get more word on that as the week goes on, but I'm feeling very positive. I'm just throwing it out there, and I'm sure Bob Gaughan's going to bring this up too. I'm not sure, I've talked to him. I'm sure, I just know that's how he thinks. Because that was a shocking piece of news yesterday when it was announced that so shocking that one of the reports I saw today is that he's reportedly out in Baltimore. And that's this morning from Yahoo. Maybe it was just leftover. Maybe it's an AI problem. Most things are AI problems online these days. But I'm just throwing it out there that got my attention. I mentioned yesterday Kevin Stefanski being fired in Cleveland. I think that's a mistake too. But I had a friend who texted me and said I would take him right now as offensive coordinator. I mean, not for this weekend, but he's like, I don't really care what happens to Brady. If Stefanski is available and wants to come here and he works with Allen, I think that's going to be better. And I didn't hate that idea. I've got nothing on Brady either. I like how things have gone with Joe Brady. I love that they have shifted to the top rushing team in the NFL that also has Josh Allen, as opposed to Allen's got to make everything happen on his own. This team is built around being complementary football, I guess is the phrase that they use. But what it means is we're multiple. You don't know what's coming. You'd better respect the league's leading rusher, and you'd better respect a future Hall of Fame quarterback at the same time. So from an offensive standpoint, I don't get too worked up. Whatever. When a game ends and the Bills don't win it in this next month or so, there's a decent chance we'll be talking about receivers and things. But there's not a lot you can do right now about the receiver position. I think it will be addressed in the offseason. I think finally the draft will be a spot where that's really what they're looking for. And I know Keon Coleman was their first pick last year. And that has not, I would fully expect him to not be dressed. If everybody's healthy, I would expect him to be, he contributes the least of the crew of, 6 guys that they use for 5 spots. I think he probably gets scratched again. And that's a whiff. That's a miss. Doesn't mean I need to cut him, but it does mean I need to think about other things. There was so much talk about what this tremendous offseason he had, and he came in and he was an entirely different player, and you wouldn't recognize him from last year. And I recognize him from last year. Same dude. So there are some struggles there, and I think the Bills know it. I think it was reasonable for them to not target wide receiver first in the draft 2 years in a row when they believed they had a guy that, they still want to see. But, and again, the playoffs haven't happened yet. Maybe he's an unbelievable playoff performer and a massive contributor to a Super Bowl run, and then all of this is irrelevant. But I'm just thinking about what they're going to look like to open up next season, and I probably shouldn't be. That's not like me. That makes me sound like every other person who talks about the team, and I'm not usually like that. I'm usually just like, all right, go kill the Jaguars this week. But the Harbaugh thing got me thinking a little bit. So open the show with that. Okay. I was in the car yesterday driving home. My son Zach is with me. He's 13, but as has been previously discussed, his musical taste as per Spotify Wrapped 2025 pegs him as a 53-year-old man. It also pegs me as a 53-year-old man. I'm a little younger than that. He's a lot younger than that. He's 40 years younger than that. I'm 2 years younger than that. So I've got that Sirius XM subscription briefly. I have told this story, but I'll tell it again. It was great. I bought Christmas cards from Walgreens. I make photo cards. And I bought cards from Walgreens, and then with that order came a free 3-month Sirius XM subscription. And I took it. Didn't have to give a credit card or anything. It's just give them the ID number from inside my vehicle. Not the VIN, but like the Sirius receiver number or something. I did that. I've got it on my phone now. It's how I listened to the whole Fish run at Madison Square Garden the last 4 nights of the year, including the crazy New Year's Eve show that was just awesome. I love you, Fish. You're the best. I'm in the car with Zach, and there's a station called Lithium that is basically, it's just mid-90s alternative, all the Seattle stuff, and then some. And I told him, like, this is a perfect station for you because he knows the core stuff, and he's always digging and trying to learn about other bands. But I'm like, literally, this is what the radio sounded like in 1995, let's say. You know, it's Soundgarden, and then it's Cracker, and then it's Nirvana, and then it's Rage Against the Machine, and then it's Pearl Jam, and then it's some. We heard Mazzy Star Fade Into You yesterday, and I tried to explain to him, like, people my age, this song is way softer than we are all, proud. We don't brag about it, but I don't know anybody who knows that song and doesn't like that song. And we're listening to that, and I'm like, the other thing about this station is I've never heard a song I didn't know on it. I've never heard, even if I don't 100% recognize a song, I know the band, or I've heard of the band, or I've heard of the song, but I don't quite. We get in the car after trivia last night. We're coming home. Turn on the car. Right after I just told him this. On the way there, I tell him I've never not known a song on this station. We get in the car, and I'm like, I've never heard of this band, and I've never heard this song. I've never heard this song title. I've never seen anything written about him. I don't even know. I don't remember what it was called. But I didn't recognize it, but it was cool. I liked it. And then the song ends, and it's Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, who has done like a takeover of the Lithium station, and he's playing stuff to introduce stuff you might not know. And it all made total sense. It was perfect. Drive home is only like 8 minutes long. Get home, get in the car. Drove my other son, Nate, to school this morning because he had jazz band early. School starts at 9, but they do these band things at 8. So I'm taking him, and the radio's still on that same station. And this morning, Tom Morello, first, he's interviewing his mom, who apparently was some activist that was fighting against the PMRC back when Tipper Gore was trying to bring down, Two Live Crew and Judas Priest and NWA, everything. Just like putting the explicit lyrics sticker on the albums, which, by the way, was just... if you were smart, you would put that sticker on your album even if you didn't contain explicit lyrics, because that was essentially like a flashing light for teenagers to buy the music. So that actually worked out pretty well, that whole thing. Unintended consequences of Tipper Gore's campaign against vulgarity in music. But anyway, I didn't know anything about that, and I meant to look it up, but I haven't yet. But he's talking to his mom about her activism in making it so that we can hear the music today, including the music of Rage Against the Machine, which obviously contains some controversial, I'll say, elements. But then the song that he plays is from the right era, but does not fit the Lithium format, Lithium being sort of a college radio what we called alternative at the time, or grunge, or like all that stuff. It's Nothing But a G Thing by Dr. Dre and Snoop. And I found myself thinking about, that's the first time I ever heard Snoop Dogg. Not this morning, but the first time I ever heard him perform at all was on the song Nothing But a G Thing by Dr. Dre. And immediately he like leapt out of the speakers. You could hear there's something different with this dude, this sort of drawl kind of, his delivery was different from anything I'd ever heard. Can you imagine if back then in, I don't know if that was 92? I think that's 92. In 1992, you hear bow, wow, wow, yippee, yo, yippee, yay for the first time. Now, don't get me wrong. That phrase is not his. It's a P-Funk thing. It's a George Clinton thing. But he made it his own. If the first time you heard that dude's drawl in 1992, somebody's like, yeah, this guy, 44 years from right now, will be ubiquitous. Like, you can't go anywhere without Snoop Dogg showing up. Anywhere in life. Whether it's, I'm sure there are places. There are places you could go. But he's going to have his own bowl game. He's going to do one of the better Super Bowl halftime shows. He's going to be on a stoop. There's an elf on a shelf, and there's a Snoop on a stoop. We've got Snoop on a stoop upstairs. There's going to be, we had a very heavy Snoop Dogg Christmas. Like, we don't even talk about him. He's just a part of life. He was as much a part of Christmas as Santa was this year in my house. One of the kids got a Snoop shirt. We gave Snoop wine as gifts. Snoop on a stoop, I mentioned. He showed up, obviously, the bowl game, the Snoop Arizona Bowl. He showed up at halftime on Christmas Day. Christmas Day, we've got Snoop presents laying around. And there he is performing halftime at, I don't remember which of the football games, but one of the three games, the NFL games that were on. Snoop was the halftime show. And that's just some dude that I heard and thought, oh, sounds pretty cool. In 1992, it is incredible that dude is a massive part of the media, the community, the culture in the U.S. 44 years later. 34. I did the math wrong. 34 years later. I already talked about Zach. I already talked about Nate. I'm going to talk about Drew because I got to keep it fair. I got 3 kids. I'm going to talk about the third one. Drew's the most entertaining of the 3, I think. Zach's a musician, and he's 13, and it's like hanging out with an adult for the most part. Got to get him through some of this whiny teenager stuff. But other than that, like if he's in a decent mood, hanging out with him is like hanging out with a grown-up, a young grown-up. I remember Bulldog telling me this at one point. He was talking about Owen, his son, who's 10 years older than, I believe everything Bulldog and I did is 10 years different. Like he graduated from West Seneca West in 82. I graduated from East in 92. He got married in 99. I got married in 09. Had a kid he had a kid in 02. I had a kid in 12. It just kept going. I ruined it by we had a third boy. But it was like, they were 2 years apart, Owen and Leo, and then Zach and Nate, and we do everything like 10 years off. I remember him telling me about, and it had to be about 10 years ago, that hanging out with Owen was like hanging out with an adult, but then occasionally he'd just like have a race car on his hand going, and you're like, oh, that's right. It's like, it's kind of like hanging out with you, except you never play with Matchbox cars or Hot Wheels or whatever. So that's Zach. That's like hanging out with an adult. Middle kid, Nate, he's right in between. Zach's musician first. He's into like movies and stuff too, but he's very just, I'm not saying he's copying me. I believe I have exquisite taste, and he's picked up on it. So now he's got exquisite taste in things. He's a little heavier into Green Day than I would be. But it's not the point. He's evolving. He keeps discovering new things. He'll ask me stuff like, hey, Pearl Jam, are they good? Or Audio Slave. Now, what's Audio Slave? I don't totally know. It's Rage Against the Machine with Chris Cornell, mostly. Like, there might be another Soundgarden guy in there, but it's basically if you took Rage and made them a rock group instead of a rap group. If that makes any sense. He's like, oh, yeah, it does. I'm like, but I can't name any songs. I've got 2 of them in my head that I know by sound and I could hum along to, but I don't know the words or anything. But those are the kind of questions he asks. Nate is equal parts sports kid and movie music kid. Like he had, 3 hours of travel baseball practice on Saturday, and then this morning went to jazz band. So, well-rounded. And then Drew, who, while he does play trombone, is 9 and is just all sports constantly and a hilarious consumer of media. Like, he'll go into the shower and I'll hear him say, hey, Google, play Dr. Dre. Or, hey, Google, play... I shouldn't say that. I'm saying those words and then the phone is reacting. No, I don't want you to do that. Don't do that. That was dumb. How do I close that? Close that. Get out of the way. It's a mess. But, that's the kind of stuff we hear from this little 9-year-old. And then he got into... So Nate, let's use Stranger Things as our example for how the 3 kids are different. Nate became obsessed with Stranger Things. He, put on the calendar when the new season was coming out and the finale and... 8 o'clock New Year's Eve, he went off to the other room because he had to watch that thing. Zach had already watched most of it, decided he didn't like season 5, might have watched the finale, not real sure. He's a little more discerning. Drew, on the other hand, typically, if you walk into the living room at my house, you will find Drew on the couch with the remote watching crap on YouTube or watching Henry Danger, which is a kids show. It's got the same look as Saved by the Bell and any of those sort of NBC Saturday morning shows that existed 25 years ago. I always reference Hang Time was one where it was Saved by the Bell, but it was a basketball team. There's another one called Bella and the Bulldogs where it's a football team and the quarterback's a girl. And it's kind of like high school, but it's kind of more like middle school. It's like that age. They're targeting kids. It's a good format to suck kids in, like a traditional sitcom, but they all have that same look. And he'll watch Henry Danger, and it'll just be any old episode. There's no sequential, I'm on season 2, episode 4 of Henry Danger. It's just I don't know, just flip it through. That one looks good. I'll watch that one, which is fine. It's how we can watch Seinfeld. It's not really episodic. Yes, you do kind of get to know the characters more as you watch. And if you watched it in order, it might benefit you a little. But there's not a lot of references from one episode to the next. So it's cool. He just skips around. Well, that is how he has also chosen to watch Stranger Things. He watches Stranger Things like he watches Henry Danger, where he just grabs one. Oh, that screenshot looks good. I'll hit that. And he'll watch season 4, episode 2, followed by season 1, episode 6, followed by season 3, episode 5. And finally, at some point, I was like, Drew, if you're going to sit and watch this show every day, you'd probably understand it a lot better if you started at the beginning and then went through to the end. And he's like, really? Yeah, dude. It's like picking up a book and just reading this. I'm going to read page 64. And then page 12, and then page 9, and then page 42. What are you doing? Read the book in order. Watch the show in order, you lunatic. And I finally convinced him. He did it. And this morning, he's watching. I don't know the show. I will say, Jeremy White asked me to watch the show, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go start to finish. But he said, I just want you to understand how well done it is. You'll appreciate how well done it is. And I do. from seeing it. It looks great. If it can convince the 9-year-old and the 11-year-old and the 13-year-old to watch it, and then they're all talking about it with their friends, there's some value there. I'm not going to do it. I don't know. I'm just not into it. But I get how it looks good and feels good, whatever. So Drew today is watching, and it's time to get on the bus. So he goes outside. He's like, all right, turns off the TV. He goes outside. I'm like, have a good day at school. He's like, okay, bye. I'll see you later. And about 2 minutes later, he walks back in, and I said, how was school? And he said, good, because I'm a dad, and that's what you say when your kid said he was going to school, and then he comes back through the door. The reason he was coming back in was because he needed to turn on Netflix again to find out what episode he's on now that he's watching them in order so that he can tell his friends where he is in the show. And I thought that was a very good development for his little brain. Be like, all right, we're going to do this sequentially, and now I'm going to talk about it in the same way that other people talk about it. Because I asked him this morning, like, do your friends watch? He's like, yeah, Dylan does, and so-and-so does, and so-and-so doesn't really, but he does a little. But it made me realize how much we as a culture miss having shows we all see. We can rally around Bills games because we all watch them at the same time. And we feel something as a community because of that. We used to be that way with television shows. We used to be that way with, you wouldn't dream of not watching the new Seinfeld or the new Cheers or the new Simpsons or the new Sopranos or the new Breaking Bad or the new, whatever it is. They were on, we watched them, we all talked about them the next day, whether it was on the bus or at work, the water cooler, if you will. Message boards even. Pre-streaming, before streaming became dominant, shows aired, we watched them at the same time, we talked about them, it was a community. Streaming is fracturing our society. And I'm not saying it's necessarily that the bad outweighs the good. I think the convenience of it is fantastic. But we've got TVs all over this house, and nobody watches anything together. Even the kids all watch Stranger Things. They've all done that at their own pace. But Drew, the little guy, recognized, hey, if I know exactly where I am in the show now, I can talk about it with my friends. And I think that makes us better as a society. So I don't know what I'm saying. Like, I'm not proposing we get rid of streaming. That's not happening. But there's something to be said for the communal, like a sharing of cultural events. I was listening to something, Rogan maybe? Yeah, Rogan with James McCann. And he was talking about AI. They talk a lot about AI and how, what's happening and what's going to look like even a year from now, a couple years from now. And Rogan, I thought, had a good point, saying, like, one way to fight against it is to embrace what you can do. Find the thing that you can do that nobody else does and do it. And it made me feel good about what's coming up with Brain Vault, the new live trivia show that's happening at the Kaz starting on January 20th. Like, a live communal experience is something that cannot be replicated by AI. And I think we're going to want those. We're going to want to do that. I'm going to want to see more live shows. I'm going to want to see music shows and comedy shows. And I want you to come to my trivia show. Unlike anything, it's a trivia show. It's not trivia night. It's a trivia show. And it's going to be, that's the whole point. Once I saw this venue, I was like, I've been dreaming of this for a while, and I didn't have a place to do it. This is the place to do it. And I'm very excited about it. So all those things kind of tie together. Community, live events, trivia, fun. Tickets are not yet available. As soon as they are, I will let you know. I checked last night, and I think they'll be up soon. But I would encourage you to come on out and be a part of it. And, I don't want to say support what I'm doing. It would be supporting what I'm doing, but I want you to come out and have a communal event. Look how much fun you guys have in the chat. Like, we hang out, I hang out here by myself, and I talk, and I can't reply to each and everything that happens in the chat, but the chat is super active right now. It's only a handful of people that are in the conversation, but being in the conversation during the show builds that sense of community. You're not just listening, you're participating, and you're kind of sitting in the crowd chatting amongst yourselves while reacting to what's going on here, and you have some of your own conversations on the side, and that's great. That's encouraged too, but the idea of community is kind of what stood out to me from all the things I've taken in the last, 24 hours. Just the way that my kid's watching TV, him coming back in really tripped my brain. Came back in to turn on TV so that he knew he's on the last episode of season 1 or whatever. I think that's what he said he is on. But he's watching in order, and that allows him to have the conversation and go and talk about it. I think about when we go out to trivia night, it's typically John Fuller, Dan Cave, and me. And most of the things we discuss are things we've watched. Have you seen this yet? Okay, no. I recommend this. Where's that? Oh, it's on Peacock. Okay, you should do this. You do that. And then you get back together. All right, did you watch that? Yes, I did. That was great. And then I saw this other thing, and we're sharing it, and that's what makes it better. And I think the chat works, and I think the live trivia thing works. I want that back. I want that sense of doing stuff at the same time. It matters. Doing stuff at the same time matters. It builds, I keep using the word community, but bonds. I think about being in a fraternity at school. Pledging was terrible. But they told us, and it didn't seem true at the time, and they wouldn't even know, to be quite honest. But you're building bonds because you're going through things together, not unlike, say, the Bills at training camp. They talk about going away to camp being a positive thing. Not many teams in the league still go stay on a college campus for a couple weeks and just isolate themselves and build themselves as a community. The Bills do that. Pledging did that. I pledged 32 years ago, 33 years ago. And I'm still super tight with the guys I did that with. Because we've got the same jokes. We've got the same reference points. Having the same reference points is probably part of what has helped as media has become splintered, as the internet, obviously, and streaming and news sites and news stations, as people have gravitated toward. If there's a group of people over here that watch CNN and then they all talk to each other, there's a community. And there's a group over here that watches Fox and they all talk to each other, and there's a community. And now those two things are opposed to each other. Now they're banging into each other. That's a part of it. Building a community is good. It stinks when there's warring communities being formed, but that's just kind of where we are. We don't all watch the same stuff. We don't all listen to the same stuff. Nobody reads. Half of what you read is written by bots. Here's an example of that. All right, I'm going to read you a story. I want you to listen. You got to listen to every word. I apologize for making you work a little bit. And I apologize for not having it right on my screen right at this second, but I will. I want you to hear this story and then tell me what's missing from the story, all right? Where is it? Here we go. Okay. Tell me what's missing from this story and how I figure that there's no way it was written by a person. Now, it claims to be written by a person. It's from parade.com, as in Parade Magazine. And the headline is 90s rock band reacts after 28-year-old song is played as final track at NFL Stadium. So I saw that headline and I thought, I think this refers to my team, because pretty sure we're the only team that just played a final game in a stadium. And it says, Goo Goo Dolls called it an incredible honor to have their classic hit close out the Buffalo Bills NFL game at Highmark Stadium. All right, I'm going to read every word of this story to you, and I want you to just think about what's missing from it. Ready? All right. Goo Goo Dolls became a part of a memorable NFL moment as the Buffalo Bills bid farewell to their longtime home, Highmark Stadium. On Sunday, the fans braved the cold and snow to celebrate the team's final regular season game against the New York Jets with a 35-8 victory for the Bills. Moreover, the game also marked the conclusion of 53 seasons at the stadium as the team prepares to move to its new venue. Among the post-game highlights, over 70,000 fans joined in singing The Killers' Mr. Brightside and remained in their seats to witness the breathtaking fireworks accompanied by Louis Armstrong's classic, What a Wonderful World. What a wonderful world. Wrapping up the farewell activities, the Bills presented a heartfelt 5-minute tribute video honoring their longtime home. The touching clip celebrated 53 years at Highmark Stadium and featured the classic hit Iris. As the montage played, every Bills fan sang along to the Goo Goo Dolls' iconic track, creating a truly unforgettable moment. Time out. Just pause for that. Like, even if you made it through the rest of this thinking that's written by a person would not write that every fan sang along. There's no chance every fan sang along. I couldn't sing along. I don't even know the words. I know the song. I've never cared about it enough to learn the words to it. I don't want the world to see me, to hear me. I know it, but I assure you that 70,000 people didn't all sing along. So right there, I'm like, yeah, this seems robotic. This seems fake. This seems AI. You're still listening to hear what's missing, okay? Following the tribute, the 90s rock band expressed their gratitude for having their 1998 song featured in the Bills' Highmark Stadium farewell. In an Instagram post, they shared a short clip highlighting Sunday's game, including players and fans watching the moving video montage. What an incredible honor to have Iris played as the very last song at Highmark Stadium, home to the Bills for 53 seasons, the caption reads. The comment section was flooded with fans sharing their joy and appreciation for the unforgettable stadium send-off. I can skip past those. Great send-off to our house. There wasn't a dry eye in the stands when Iris came on. Go Bills. Then it says frontman and guitarist John Resnick now, I guess, with bassist Robbie Takic are set to hit the road for an upcoming tour. The band will embark on their summer tour across the U.S. with special guest Neon Trees. The show will kick off in California in July and conclude in September in Pennsylvania. Moreover, Goo Goo Dolls will also perform with guest Dashboard Confessional in their Canada Spring 2026 tour from March to May. All right, that's the end of the story. What was missing? What was missing from that story? I'm going to look in the chat and see if anybody picked up on what was missing from that story. It's pretty noteworthy. Does anybody have anything here? They're not going to say the word Iris, are they? They did. Zero mention of the Goo Goo Dolls being from Buffalo is correct. Thank you. AC Man 3192. No mention whatsoever that there's a reason. Like, that story implied that the Goo Goo Dolls came because they couldn't get Gin Blossoms to play Hey Jealousy. They couldn't get Cracker in to play Low. They couldn't get Faith No More to show up and play Epic, so they settled for 90s retro band Goo Goo Dolls. No mention whatsoever that the Goo Goo Dolls also performed at the first show at the arena when it opened in 96. No mention of that. Like, that just tells me that's not written by a person, and it's missing the point. And these articles, these posts with these clickbait headlines, it feels like there's going to be something interesting there. But then when you find out that the main thing you need to know, we're from Buffalo, we know it. But good God, just nothing. No quote from somebody in the band who's like, yeah, I grew up, I went to the first game. Or, my dad took me to the game starting in 1978. Or it's something. Just no connection whatsoever. It's not just a random song. Why would a football team close a stadium with a ballad from City of Angels? It doesn't make any sense. Unless you know that the Goo Goo Dolls are from Buffalo. Now, I intentionally skipped over one quote from, there was like a person, a commenter, who said, like, Buffalo loves our Goo Goo Dolls or something like that. But the reality is, the author of that missed something massive, which is a pattern I've been seeing as I've been using AI to write show notes for each episode of Riter Radio, which I think it's great, but I have to read through them to make sure that it's not screwing something up, because it's always screwing something up. Here's how it summarized yesterday's show. I think I have it open on this page. Everything takes a little bit longer because the computer's running super slow. Bear with me. It's just the way things go. Longer than what? This is every day that this happens, right? All right. Episodes. Latest episode was 237. And if I can get this to open, I'm going to read you how it summed up yesterday's show. Which I didn't like yesterday's show, to be honest with you. It was plodding, meandering. So much so that I ended it like 10 minutes early. I don't usually do that, but no, this is not going to open for me. Bob Gaughan's coming up in just a few minutes here. I don't even think we're going to take a break to play music. We'll just have Bob on. Play music after that. This is not open. Oh. So close. Too many tabs open. Doing it again. All right, here's how it sums up yesterday's show. Riter Radio episode 237 finds Brad openly questioning the value of Tuesdays, joking that if the show had a slogan, it might be skip the Tuesday shows. Before reluctantly settling in and doing exactly what the program does best, following his curiosity wherever it leads, he talks candidly about his uneven weekly energy, the looming launch of his new live trivia show Brain Vault at the Kaz in South Buffalo, and his ongoing transformation from dirtball to polished stage host as the debut approaches. Along the way, he riffs on cutting his own hair, trusting professionals, missing a second monitor, and the strange mental math of balancing a daily show with the anticipation of a bigger ticketed event that has him rethinking Tuesdays altogether. From there, the episode becomes a free-flowing tour through news, tech, sports, and everyday Buffalo life. Brad digs into AI, where it's genuinely useful and where it's confidently wrong. Shares his fascination and unease with humanoid robots, laughs at the accidental comedy of Ring doorbell alerts, and unpacks how Bills playoff games literally stop daily life in Western New York. He bounces between NHL standings, NFL coaching changes, historical oddities, and weight loss drugs with the same skeptical, curious tone, frequently admitting when he doesn't know something and talking it through in real time. The show closes the way it began, unpolished, conversational, and honest, fully embracing the idea that even a Tuesday can turn into something worthwhile once the mic is on. Nice job. You can tell it's written by AI because it's got the same exact tone every time, but it's doing it right, and I think this is a perfectly reasonable use of AI to write. I take the full transcript, I import it, and then I say, sum this up in 2 paragraphs. And 4 seconds later, it spits out 2 paragraphs that, frankly, I don't have time to write. I just don't. I'm not going to sit and listen to my whole show again and then analyze it and then write it. If we had a whole staff, that might be somebody's job. But honestly, in the current state of affairs, if we had a whole staff, the staff member in charge of writing that, we would probably let go really soon because AI can just do the job. So I think AI is doing great there. I don't like it writing articles about the Goo Goo Dolls playing, or, the song playing at the stadium with no mention that they're from Buffalo. All right. We await Bob Gaughan's call. He's usually right on time, so I expect we'll have him any second now. I'm also looking for the comments. We'll go through some comments because there have been quite a few of them during the first hour of the show. Starting at the top. I'm not going to read everyone aloud. A lot of good mornings. Anxiety rising for playoffs. Brad likes free stuff. I don't know what that is. The beard grew at least another inch. Yeah, it keeps coming. We're gonna fix it. I'm letting it go so that it can be scaled back professionally. That's my intention, is to do that. Oh, what just happened? He was calling and then the call disappeared. We'll wait. He'll be back. Owen is a boss. I too have exquisite taste. Pumpkins are better than Pearl Jam. Mostly. Of everything that both of those bands put out, Siamese Dream is my favorite. And the album I've listened to the most. But like from a pure just like rock standpoint, I think it's Pearl Jam, but I've got favorites, and Siamese Dream is one of them. I don't think I've ever. You guys are talking about Carly Rae Jepsen and Lorde and the Ting Tings in Chapel Roan. and I'm not sure how we got to that, but that's okay. There's a very interesting episode of the Planet Money podcast about this very phenomenon. I'm struggling to follow along, but that's okay, because our good friend Bob Gahn has arrived, and all we have to do to welcome Bob in is here at the Little Open.
The way my kids date now, it's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
Let's check in with Riter Radio's
living legend,
Bob Gahn.
There he is. What's up, Bob?
Hey, Brad, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
Doing great.
What's
Yes,
on your mind today?
Well, a couple of things. One, I think this was a Larry David. Before we get into sports, really quickly, someone wished me Happy New Year yesterday.
Me too.
What is the etiquette for when it's no longer okay? I mean, you don't wish somebody Happy New Year in March. What is do you have a date in your mind etiquette-wise? I got a couple of etiquette questions. Do you have a date in your mind etiquette-wise? What is the etiquette for?
All right.
So when it is too late to say, okay, come on, it's the 7th.
Let's go. I'm not a big religion guy, but let's go with January 6th being Epiphany, or the end of the 12 days of Christmas. And yesterday was that day. I know that was the day that my late father-in-law chose as the day that the tree comes down, because the 12 days of Christmas are over. So I think all holiday talk ended yesterday. And beginning today, somebody wishes you a Happy New Year, you can hit them.
Okay, that's good. So the line of demarcation is
yesterday,
January 7th. Yeah, the 6th is okay. The 7th, now it's like, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are we talking about? Now this was a very nice man.
Yes.
A guy that, he was not. It was nice to hear. I haven't seen him since the new year, so that makes sense. But no, I'm done with it. I'm done. That's the date. Yesterday.
That's right today. All right, perfect. All right, that's why
I've got answers.
That's why I need you. I need you for these type of things.
All right, what else you got? More etiquette.
No, well, there's that's what the Bills. Let me hold you off on that.
All right, fair enough.
But let me talk about the last game at Rich, Highmark, the Ralph, whatever you call. Me and my brother go. So we have a streak. This is a DiMaggio-like streak, Brad, if you would, sort of. We figured out there's been 530 home games in the history of the Buffalo Bills. Okay? Yep. This goes from 1960 to last Sunday. Okay?
Okay.
There was a gone at 527 of them.
Wow.
We probably only missed 3, so there was overlap. My father went to pretty much every game. He missed a couple games in 60 because he was in Kansas City for a job, so he had to buy single seats. My season tickets, because I inherited them from him when he passed away, was 1961. So we started buying season tickets in 61, but he actually went to he only missed a couple of games in 60. He had to buy single seats.
Wow.
And then, of course, Mark went to games for 10 years and then covered them for 32. So, like I said, there was an overlap. As my father got sick and, wasn't going to as many games, Mark was going, covering the games for years. And then, whatever. So between with somebody with the last name gone, 527 out of 530, I think that streak is it's going to end sometimes in Highmark for sure. The one game that we sold this year, the Ravens game, my nephew went to. So that's why I said I think the streak is going to end. That counts. So I think the streak is going to end in Highmark as we sell the first game of Highmark to make money and make that PSL money. But at least for the first 2 stadiums for the first 65 years, we're kind of proud of that. And when I was at the game, I will say there was a lot of – you could look at the people's faces and they were thinking of a father, an uncle, or somebody that, took them to the game. You could see the lines in their faces of people that were thinking of somebody that they had gone to their first game with. I'm sure, your dad, I'm sure you could tell me the first game you ever went to.
I could. The Bills won 9-7 on the strength of 3 Nick Mickemeyer field goals. The Broncos had a 41-yard touchdown pass from Craig Morton to, what was his name? Steve Watson.
Steve Watson.
Yeah. So yeah, 9-7 final. My mom was in Boston for some reason. My dad's like, yeah, we're going to the Bills game. So he took, I don't know, I was 6 years old or something like that. But yep, that's my first one. I definitely remember that. And then we got season tickets when Kelly got here. There was a big push because, I mean, you remember what the crowds were like during the Ferragamo, Matheson, Kofler years, when none of the home games were on television. And, even when they beat Dallas and had the big upset, that wasn't televised. You didn't see any of the stuff. And they were trying to fill up that stadium, A, to get people in the seats, but B, to get Jim Kelly games on television. And so my dad worked for National Fuel, and they had like a thing through the company where tickets must have been, he was saying the other day, they might have been like half price. They were just trying to get people in the door and revive interest in a franchise that had been awful for several years, and it worked. So we had tickets for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, something like that, and he split them with somebody, and usually like my mom would go to 1 and I'd go to 3. So I went to like 2-3 games a year for 4 or 5 years, something like that, and then I had season tickets myself for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years that ended the year that T.O. was here. And since then, I will go to a game a year or so. So I've not been like a super, as far as attendance, I've not been the super fan that the Gons have been. But I've, been involved in attending games since, 1980 or something.
Yeah, and it's amazing like you said, in the 70s, early 80s. So my brother's going to games there. My father decides, like in 79, he's going to take me. We were able to get extra seats, 50-yard line or 40-yard line, because there were the season ticket holders, or you could always find a good seat available in, I'm talking 77, 78.
Sure.
In those, there was a few, the Chuck Knox years was pretty good. The attendance was pretty good. But as you were talking about then, once you got into 84, 85, 86, oh my God, you could find seats whatever you wanted to. So it was amazing how easy it was to find seats in those late 70s, mid 80s.
Hey, how did you end up doing with your negotiation on getting new tickets at the stadium? Because I don't remember if we ever picked up on how that ended. I remember your first meeting didn't go especially well.
No, it didn't. So we wound up having to go down 30 or whatever. I think we're around the 48-yard line now, and 28 rows up. We had to go to like the 18 or so. Still 28 rows up.
Okay.
But the PSL, instead of 10,000 was 6,000. The price of the ticket stayed the same as it is right now. So we got the same price as we're paying now, but again, instead of being around the 50, we're around the 20. So we lost 30 yards.
Okay.
But
you saved $8,000 to do that.
We saved, we saved $8,000, of which we have already gotten 1,000 of that back by selling the opener, the Baltimore game, and then we're hoping to sell the opener, the first four openers or so, to try and even get more of that. What we figure, $11,000. Can we get another $6,000-$7,000 back? And then, I can justify it, saying, the PSL instead of 12,000 was only 3,000 or 4,000.
Sure.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it turns out to be. I think we're going to make a lot of money. I think if we wanted to, this first year, because they sold out PSL, so it's a seller's market. If you want a ticket, you have to come essentially to a season ticket holder.
Yeah. And I think about the way that when the Sabres were red hot, people were buying season tickets, selling the Toronto games, and paying for the rest of the season with it. It was that easy. They played them enough, and I think there might be a similar situation right now. And good job on the Bills to talk people into PSLs while Josh Allen is in his prime, because this doesn't work otherwise.
No, not at all. You're right, Josh Allen. If he's not here, I don't think the stadium is built.
Nope.
Certainly, well, I mean, it might be built, but you're not selling out the PSLs like they did. So they did it at the right time. That's absolutely right.
There was a time when I thought the PSL thing was not going to work. When you guys were first coming back from your initial meetings with these people, I was like, this could be a problem. But the stadium's going to be full next year, so okay, good.
Yeah. Here's the other moral question: the Bills need a kicker, right?
Yeah.
they're going up against a kicker that can kick 70 yarders legitimately, right?
Yeah, yes.
70 yarders, and you're going into the game maybe without a kicker. So the moral police has to ask, Brad, would you be opposed to bringing in Justin Tucker?
You know what? At dinner, I think it was last night, maybe the night before, we were talking about exactly this situation. The kicker is out, and they did sign a guy to the practice squad, and he's from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So John Fuller is very excited about it. But he's a guy who's been on, this is his 9th team in like 6 years, and he's played like 33 games, UCF guy, whatever. One of my kids brought up Justin Tucker, and now this is it's a little unfair because of what my wife has done. She doesn't do it anymore, but for a living, she used to on the side. She's a licensed massage therapist. So her opinion on, I was just hoping. I just shut up. My kids brought up Justin Tucker. I said, he kind of sucks now. Like he went from best kicker in NFL history to like massive decline in the last year, and that's a part. I mean, if he was still kicking the way that he used to kick, he'd still be on the Ravens. But the kicking fell off too, and then there are a lot of reasons for other teams not to sign him. I just sat there silently to see if my wife knew about the stuff, and she definitely knew about the stuff because she's like, "No, he's a bad guy. You can't bring him in. He's a bad guy." So I am not. I'm not licensed to. I'm not licensed to endorse the signing of Justin Tucker in a house with a woman who went to school to be a certified massage therapist.
I totally get it.
Take it a fifth there.
I'm not opposed to it. If that if that makes me a bad person,
I'm not mad at you.
I need a kicker, Brad. I really need a kicker. I can't go into this game without a kicker, and I don't want to go in with a Michael Badgley type of guy here, because the other side has a gun, and I don't want to go in with a knife, right? I mean, I need something or nothing. I might have nothing. So I'm just saying, not opposed to it. Now I'm willing to listen.
Well,
if the guy can still kick.
It's really tough when you're like, I thought so. Badgley was no good, and then the day after his second meltdown, they cut him, and they immediately said they expect Prater to be back, and then Prater's back until it's time to kick, and then Prater's not back, and that really puts you in a tough spot. Scott Wilson talked about this a lot this year with the Giants. Like Graham Gano is there. And then by the second quarter, he can't kick. And you knew he was banged up, but you came into the game anyway. And they lost a lot of close games. They blew a lot of leads this year. And it was based on the uncertainty there. It's not like you've got extra guys sitting around. So right now, even with this Matthew Wright on the practice squad, you've got Prater, who I liked him. He's been very good for the team. But I can't trust a guy who said he was ready to go and then was not ready to go 1 week prior to the playoff game. I can't trust that.
Yes.
Can I trust the guy who's been on 9 teams in 33 games? I can't trust that. I started thinking about like retired guys. Is there somebody, how does that work? Like, can Steve Christie do anything? I don't mean Steve Christie, but kind of. Somebody that's been out of the league for 2 years. Is there somebody sitting, I guess Prater. Like, is there another Prater sitting around that can be ready at this point? I don't know. But yeah,
But you're
can't
right.
legally...
I don't think you could. I'm not comfortable going in. I love Prater. I love what he's done. I was one of the people that said, when they were debating, maybe we should bring, will Bass be able to come back? I was the one saying, no, we don't need him. We got Prater.
Yeah.
Prater's been great. But I can't see going into the game with Prater. I really can't. If they go into the game with Prater and then the same thing happens again, boy, you talk about opening yourself up for, getting criticized.
Yeah.
That is, I don't think you can risk that. I really don't think you can risk it.
We've seen the punter can kick off, so that's fine. I'm not worried. We're not worried about kickoffs, right? I don't care about kickoffs. I care about it's the last minute of the first half, and you've got an opportunity to go up 10 instead of 7, and it's a 42-yard kick. I can't use Ray Davis for that. I can't use an injured Prater for that. I guess I could try this Matthew Wright, but I just don't know what to do. I could see myself in a situation where going for 2 is a better option than kicking extra points, or maybe Davis is okay for extra points. I don't know. I hope that the season doesn't end on this. It's just I don't know what I would do. I don't have an answer, and I can't answer the Tucker thing.
Well, you basically lost the Philly game because of it already. You lost the Philly game because you didn't have a kicker. Because if you did have a kicker, all you had to do was kick 2 extra points and the game was over.
Right.
So you won it. So do you really want to have that situation, potentially happen again? Of course not.
Yeah.
Going into this game, though, I think there's a lot of people that talk about, first of all, Jacksonville is solid. I mean, they're probably the hottest team in the AFC. Seattle, obviously the hottest team in the NFC. If you had to, predict a Super Bowl, if you predicted Seattle and Jacksonville, I don't think a lot of people, would disagree. But the Jacksonville, I mean, do you trust Trevor Lawrence? Do we trust Trevor Lawrence?
0%.
Yeah, of course not,
no.
right?
No, I love playing against Trevor Lawrence. I think that sounds great. I've heard about how well they're playing, and I've watched them, and they're okay. They're okay. Yeah. I'm not super impressed, and I don't believe in that guy at all. I didn't believe in him when he was coming out, and they're like, best prospect since Andrew Luck. I didn't see it, and we still haven't seen it. I don't hate them. They're okay. I understand why they're going to, they're not looking for a quarterback. They're all right. It's just I think having the best one is different from having a good one, and that's a problem the Bills have run into, and now the Bills are on the other side of that. They clearly have the best quarterback in football on their side, going up against a lot of guys who are inexperienced. One who's very experienced, but obviously isn't who he used to be in Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think you're going to have to wait. I don't think you're going to have to see that team anyway, because I would imagine they get taken out at home this weekend by Houston. So I've still got the best player. No, I'm not afraid of Lawrence. Here's what I'm afraid of. The only 2 times the Bills have played Jacksonville in the playoffs, they've lost. I know it's an entirely different thing, but that game in '96, Kelly's last game, is my least favorite game I've ever attended at the stadium. And it's because it's the only time I went in positive of what the outcome was going to be, and I was wrong. Did not occur to me going into that game that they could lose and that the season could end. And it ends up, not only did the season end, but then we didn't have a quarterback for 20 years. And that sucked. Like all of that. So I still, like, those uniforms freak me out. Getting in the car and finding out that Natron Means ran for 186 yards or whatever it was when I got out of that building. I just, they've been, and it was only the second year of that franchise existing. They have bothered me forever. You think about trips to London that have sucked against this team. There's just not a great history. I haven't looked to see what the Bills' record is against the Jaguars, but I would bet it's a losing one.
Right. Well, that team, you're looking back at it, because we didn't know. I was the same way you were. Going into that game, I thought there's no way the Bills were going to lose that game. Looking back at it, Mark Brunell was pretty solid. Particularly at that time, Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell as a duo, those were that's an underrated duo of all time. Yeah. I'll put it that way. Those guys were Natron Means for that, year or two period. Tony Baselli, who I don't know that he shut out Bruce Smith that day, but he shut him down pretty good. I mean, I think looking back on that, I didn't realize walking into the stadium that day, I was covering. I'm sorry, I wasn't walking in that day. I was just covering with the radio station that they were a pretty good team. That team was solid.
Yeah, but it didn't feel right because they were wearing teal and they were only in their second year in the league, and that's the year Carolina did the same thing. Carolina went to the championship game that year. All-time series is 10-10, so it's hanging in the balance right here, including 2 postseason games. The Bills have won 10 and they've lost 10 in going up against Jacksonville since 1996.
Right. And again, and going back to Lawrence, by the way, Ryan O'Halloran, who worked for the News, is down in Jacksonville now, left just at the start of the season. At mid-season, he wrote an article halfway through saying, this Jacksonville team is really good, except for the quarterback. So he was critical of Lawrence. Lawrence has only been good basically half the season. He wasn't even great the first half of the season, just so you know. I mean, it's... Again, Lawrence is playing great, but it hasn't been all year. He hasn't even put a whole year together. And again, you got a rookie coach. There are things, I think, going into every game, people talk about what you don't have. There are things you do have in this game, though. You have I think the advantage at coach. because of experience in the playoffs. I think you have the advantage at quarterback for sure. You have a defensive line that doesn't really get much pressure, even though they have a good pass defense. It's not really because of a great defensive line. Again, I think there's a lot of advantages here that the Bills have. And again, you want to talk about a shame? If the Bills do lose, and obviously it's a 1-point spread, either way, is it kind of unfair that if there were four great quarterbacks coming into this year, Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, who don't make the playoffs, yet if the Bills lose this game, Josh Allen is going to get criticized more than the three guys that didn't make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you got to wait and see how it goes down because it's impossible. You've laid out Josh being among the best or maybe the best playoff quarterbacks of all time and certainly the best playoff quarterback in losses. You laid that whole thing out statistically a couple times, and it's remarkable the numbers he's put up. I strongly believe that if this team doesn't win on Sunday, it's going to be somebody else's fault. It's not going to be because they have the best player in the league. It's going to be because he's not surrounded by all of the best players in the league. And then the coach thing is going to come into question. And I started the show today saying I'm never into this, McDermott's got to go thing. But I could see a scenario only this weekend because I think the window's going to close pretty quickly. When John Harbaugh is on the market, I'm looking at things differently. I'm not, he's got to go and then we'll find somebody to replace him. I think there's a very reasonable chance that's an upgrade at the head coach position. And I'm not kicking McDermott out for winning, but if things don't go right and you decide it's time that the formula needs to change and you're not going to get over the top with this group and something's got to happen, it's the first time I've thought about it is when I heard Harbaugh was fired.
Well, Harbaugh went out literally because of Lamar Jackson,
right?
In every way, sense, or form. The reason he was on the hot seat is because they underperformed in the playoffs. Going back to the Bills game last year, pretty much everybody knows that the Ravens had the better team last year. Why did they lose? I think they lost because Lamar made two horrible turnovers. Absolutely disgusting turnovers. They lost to the Titans. They lost to the Chargers. They lost the AFC Championship game to Kansas City. And it was because their offense didn't do anything because Lamar was 13-11, 13 touchdowns, 11 turnovers, 3-6 in the playoffs was Lamar. That's why he's on the hot seat. And then now combine that with apparently he has a falling out with Lamar in the middle of the season. So that's why he's gone. He's gone because they picked Lamar over John Harbaugh. And I don't know. There's no other way of seeing it. That's why he's not with the Ravens anymore.
So do you consider him an option here?
I don't think the Bills are gonna. To tell you the truth, they're not making a move either way. I can't see them making a move. No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't consider now. But again, if they lose 34-31 again, if they lose 34-31, one of the two guys is going to get criticized. I still don't see him making a move. If they lose 13-12, like they lost to the Eagles, then Bean's on the hot seat because his receivers sucked. If they lose 34-31, then Bean was right to put it all on defense. But again, it's the sixth year in a row you lost because your defense stunk. And then McDermott's on. So, I mean, I think one way or the other, yes, one of the two is going to be on the hot seat.
All right, fair enough. Anything else you want to get to before we let you go?
Quickly, the college football playoff, one shame of it all. The two teams that, played well this year. James Madison puts up 500 yards of offense against Oregon. This is the Oregon team that shut out Texas Tech. I don't know if you saw. They lost their whole offense. Four guys graduate. The other seven go in the portal. It's just it just disturbs me the way college football,
to go to
the
Indiana.
mid-majors. Yeah, well, you can't do it, right? You can't have back-to-back good years if you're a UB of the world.
For anybody.
That frustrating.
Yeah.
North Texas did the same thing, by the way. North Texas had a great year, lost their best players. So that upsets me. I do like Indiana this year, but I mean, how do you not like Indiana? The way that they're playing. If I had to give you a stone cold lock this whole weekend, because what a great weekend we got, right?
Oh my.
Starting tomorrow. starting on Thursday, we've got college football playoff Thursday and Friday, NFL playoff Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Of all of those games, if I had to give you a lock, I think it's Indiana over Oregon. I really love the way Indiana's playing. I love Signetti. I don't believe in Oregon, so I'm going with I think the spread's 3.5. I would go with the Hoosiers.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Bob.
All right, you got it, Brad.
We'll talk to you next week. There's Bob gone. There's Bob gone. He's our grinder. Everybody knows that, right?
The way my kids date now, it's so simple. They go on an app, whether it's Grindr or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, and they get the date automatically.
Automatically. All right, here's the deal. I've got a bunch of stuff left. Got a bunch of stuff left I want to do here. That said, when I went upstairs, I was playing a song. I walked upstairs. I was got junk I'm taking out of the basement and getting rid of. I had a couple trips up and down the stairs. I got stuff out to the garage, which is cool. And then as I walked past the kitchen table, I saw a pile of swim clothing that my son, who's too cool to say goodbye when he leaves for school in the morning, didn't grab. But the stuff there piled up for him, and he comes down and he's all mopey. He's all 13-year-old stuck. No, bye. He didn't even say bye. How's it going? Oh, fine. You know. And then he just left. I didn't even know he was gone yet. I figured out he was gone because the garage door was wide open. And he was nowhere to be found. And I didn't realize that he hadn't grabbed his stuff. So then I was like, all right, well, I'll just text him. But you can't text him during school because he can't have his phone on during school. So I was like, oh, I'll go into the email system because I know he can email me. And then I reply to him, but I tried sending a new email. I can't do that. And I don't know his schedule. So I called the school during the break. And they looked it up for me. And his swim class is at 12:16. He did forget it. He does want to swim. He likes swimming. But we never, I don't know where his little bag is. His little, what do you call those things? Little, what's that bag called? Like the little zipper bag. Not zipper. The nylon bag that you carry. Anyway, we don't have that. So I've got to look for one of those. But swim class is at 12:16. And I told him, or I told the woman at the office, I'll have his stuff there by noon. The school's like 3 minutes from here. So it's not a problem. And I'm not done with the show. I've still got a bunch of stuff open that I want to talk about. Tote bag is not the term. Not duffel bag. It's like the little vinyl-ish one with the drawstring. Drawstring bag? Is that what they call them? Anyway, I've got to find one of those to put the stuff in. But I have to take this stuff to school. But I'm not done with the show. So we had somebody in the chat complaining that I was gone too long while playing a couple songs. I'll have you know I didn't take a break from the start of the show until then. And that was only 3 songs. I take longer breaks than that sometimes. But here's what's going to happen right now. Drawstring bag. Drawstring bag. Thank you, Nick and Mike. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. So I've got to find one of those laying around the house. I'm sure we've got 1,000 of them. I probably got 11 in the basement. But I've got to do that. I've got to put the stuff in the bag. I've got to drive over to the school. I go to the office. So you're going to get music. And if you want to go away, that's fine. But I'm telling you, I got another like half hour of show in me at least. But I just can't do it right this second because I need to get this stuff over to the school so that my kid can swim. So that's what I'm doing. All right. So you're going to get more music right now. And if you would like to go away, you can. But if you'd like to stick around, even just put it in the background, I'll be back before noon. And I got a bunch more stuff. I got a solid 20 minutes left, maybe half an hour. It just can't happen right this second because I'm the only one here, and he's at school without his stuff, and I'm taking it. It's a long song that we never played. Let's see. All right, this is where I stick you with Fish. I'm going to stick you with some Fish. That's what we're doing. Fish. Let's see if there's a live version of Harry Hood that's online. Clifford Ball, 96. 20 minutes of Harry Hood. All right, you're getting 20 minutes of Harry Hood by Fish. and then I'll be back, because for sure I'll be back. Take us with you. Take us with you. All right, let me think about this. I don't think I can. The broadcast software is on the laptop. I'm not disconnecting the laptop and bringing it in the car. If I could continue, I could do audio only on Mixler. No, it's not going to work. You're getting fish. I don't have time to figure it out. You're getting 20 minutes of fish, and then I'll be back. All right? It's the beauty of fish. There's literally 3 words left in this song. There's 7 minutes left. Right now, they should go, I feel good. It should end. Just say it. Just say it. There's literally still 6 minutes left in the track. We're not leaving it on. I like the song. I'm not going to make you sit through 6 more minutes. Literally, it just goes, I feel good. And that's it. All right, we're back. Swim clothes successfully deposited. I also learned on my journey to the school that my father-in-law, my late father-in-law, was not the only one who liked to keep the Christmas tree up until exactly January 6th, because the entire neighborhood is trees on front lawns ready to be taken away. Holidays are over. Bob Gaughan asked, when will people stop saying Happy New Year? And I said, yesterday. Yesterday was the final day to say Happy New Year. You know what just happened to me? Somebody at the school said Happy New Year. Ran into somebody I knew, and she said, oh, hi, Brad. Happy New Year. I said Happy New Year back, but I don't feel good about it. I can at least say that. But yeah, people are getting rid of trees. Holidays are done. We're done. It's football time. That's what this weekend is insane, as Bob pointed out, with college football semifinal Thursday, another one Friday, NFL playoffs Saturday, Sunday, Monday. There's a lot of football going on. All right, a lot of stuff still on the what's the name of that song? That song is called Harry Hood. And if you go online and look for the New Year's Eve performance of Harry Hood, you will, even if you're not into fish, you'll kind of get the magic of the insanity that is the fish universe, because that's the song. Harry Hood is a character named after Hood Dairy Products based in Vermont, and they've invented this whole world around that, but they turned it into an ice cream giveaway. First they played a song called It's Ice, then they played a cover of Cream by Prince, and then they played Harry Hood, which is dairy themed as well. Might sound stupid. Maybe is stupid, but is also super fun for the nerds like me that are very into it. The music's great, but it's called Harry Hood. And that was from Live at the Clifford Ball, which was 1996, I believe, at Griffiths Air Force Base. Wait, was Clifford Ball Griffiths? Might have been Plattsburgh. It's either Plattsburgh or Griffiths, which is like Rome, New York. And I know that because my dad was stationed there in the Air Force. Decommissioned Air Force Base used for the Fish Festival in one of those years. And I think it was Clifford Ball. But anyway, that's what you just heard, Harry Hood. Not available on an album. It's only a live song that they play. So don't look for a studio version of Harry Hood. It doesn't exist, to my knowledge. All right, all the other stuff on my screen, and then we'll go through the chat. So I'm going to be here for a little bit. Thank you for bearing with me. I had to run to the school to drop off swim stuff for my negligent in preparation for school son. But he's 13, and it's the morning. And he just leaves. I was already planning on talking to him about that. Like, I don't care that you're mopey, but I always let you know when I'm leaving the house. How about you let me know when you're leaving the house? 13-year-old that I still kind of own. How about that? Don't just go to school, say, all right, I'm leaving. That's what people do. In polite society, that's what people do. We'd like to live in a polite society, certainly in our house. All right. What is on the screen that needs to be discussed? I've got a bunch of tabs. This one I can close. That was me trying to email the school. That didn't work. These are Trevor Lawrence's statistics. So I'm on the Pro Football Reference page for Trevor Lawrence. And at the top, it has like what the guy is known as generally. So he's known as Trevor Lawrence. And then right under it, it says William Trevor Lawrence, just like it would say Joshua Patrick Allen. And then in parentheses would be a nickname. or 6. Like certain players, Babe Ruth. I'm going to do the Babe Ruth one before I do the Trevor Lawrence one. We're going to do Babe Ruth, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence. All right, Babe Ruth reference. And then I'm going to do Josh Allen reference. And then we're going to do Trevor Lawrence reference. These are all 3 guys you thought you'd hear in the same sentence today, right? Josh Allen reference. Okay. So you go to the Babe Ruth baseball reference page, and somehow it does not have nicknames on here. I thought this would be the best one, where it would be, Sultan of SWAT, King of Swing, Great Bambino, blah, blah, blah. It would list a bunch for him. That's what I thought. It doesn't. All right, football. Joshua Patrick Allen, General, nobody calls him that. JA-17, sure. Or the Winter Soldier. I feel like that's a Game of Thrones reference, right? Winter is coming. I just feel like that's related. I don't know the show, but I feel like it's related. That's what it says for them. It would have worked better if I had the Babe Ruth one. For Trevor Lawrence, it lists one nickname for him. And, it probably goes without saying. I don't have to tell you that he is listed as William Trevor Lawrence, and then in parentheses, the prince who was promised. First of all, that's the worst nickname of all time, if anyone actually called him that. But nicknames need to be shorter than names. Certainly not. What's a 5-word nickname? Dropping back to pass is the prince who was promised. Do you mean Trevor Lawrence? Yeah, of course I do. Who else would I mean by the prince who was promised? You're not going to lose to the prince who was promised, right? And like Bob was saying, that he had a good second half. He's been playing great. I don't even know that that's true. Like, he's had a couple of all right games mixed in. He threw 3 touchdown passes against Cincinnati. That's cool. He had a 5-touchdown pass game against the Jets. Trubisky had 4 in a game that didn't matter. Threw for 3 against Denver earlier in the year. But looking at the story of the Jaguars, they won their first 8. Then they lost 3 of 4, and then they won 4 of 5 to finish ever so slightly ahead of the Bills in the standings. But I'm looking at his statistics. How many 300-yard games? Not that defines everything, but he had 1. He threw for 330 against the Jets. How many, touchdowns? 3, none, 3, 5, 2, 2, 3. It sounds like we're working backwards. Okay, I'm sorry. That makes sense. They won 8 in a row. There we go. Okay. They won 4 of their first 5, then they lost 3 of 4, and then they have won 8 in a row. That makes way more sense. I didn't remember the Jaguars being 8-0 to start, but I'm looking at it backward. It goes from the newest game is at the top. Okay, so yeah, he's got a 5-touchdown game, a 3-touchdown game, and a 3-touchdown game in his last 4. And 2, 2, and 3 before that. So yeah, that's right. Okay. What Bob was saying makes sense. I was just looking at the numbers upside down. This is how much I care about the Jacksonville Jaguars. There are not a lot of teams in pro sports that are less relevant to my life. Yet they do seem to keep tripping up the Bills. They ruined Jim Kelly's final game, or they caused it to be Jim Kelly's final game. They beat the Bills 10-3 or whatever it was in that playoff game when the drought was broken. No one had expectations that year anyway. They lucked into it on the Tyler Boyd touchdown, Cincy against Baltimore that year. So no expectations that time. But like the final straw game for E.J. Manuel was London against Jacksonville. I feel like they've lost to Jacksonville in London more than once, maybe. Overall 10-10 against this team, as we've discovered today. But there's just something nagging about a team I never think about, never care about, and pops up and seems irrelevant and then thwarts the Bills' efforts more often than I would like it to. So I'm a little concerned there, but it's just history. It's not this team. It's not that quarterback. It's not these players. I think they're fine. R.I.P. NHL or Hockey Hall of Famer Bob Pulford, who died on Monday at the age of 89. He won 4 Stanley Cups. Here's how you know you're old. He won 4 Stanley Cups, or he was old. All of them with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who hadn't won a cup since there were 6 teams in the league. So Bob Pulford, 1936 to 2026. He passes away, won 4 cups with the Leafs during a 16-year career. Was a coach, GM, and executive with the Kings and Blackhawks. That's why I know his name. It's not from him winning with the Leafs. It's him as a coach and GM. Yeah. All right. So Bob Pulford passed away. NFL playoff predictions. I don't think we need that right now. This is just an article from NFL.com with somebody picking all the games. They've got Jacksonville winning, but whatever. Not too concerned about that. Close that out. We're in this pause while the computer does its thing. That's a cool music story that I'm sure I will get to. That one's just for me. I don't feel like reading this one. Ooh, 2 Buffalo businesses closing. One of which I mentioned. One of which I set foot in the other day. Revolver Records on Hurdle is going away. Now, they did recently open a larger Elmwood Village location. So it's not like... And they have the one on Transit Road in, I guess it would be Williamsville. That one remains open. The other one remains open. But this one... I was in there thinking, and maybe this came up on the show yesterday, and I apologize if it did, because I learned about this yesterday. I don't remember if it was during the show or afterward. But I was actually in there on Saturday, and I was thinking, how's this place making money? Like, there's one guy working, and he's just sitting behind the counter, and there's a cool vibe, and there are people just kind of looking around and flipping through stuff, but we walked out of there without buying anything. I watched other people do the same. I'm not saying nobody was buying anything, but it didn't seem like, for a Saturday afternoon, it didn't seem like it was going super well, and I guess not. They decided to shut down that location. It says they're selling the building. This is the owner of the place, the owner of Revolver Records, multiple locations. Phil Matchimmer, the owner of Revolver Records, said the decision to close one of its locations wasn't easy. Quote, they're selling the building and I anticipate the rent going up and it may be something I can't really afford. 2, dwindling sales. This year was kind of tough for sales in general. I have 2 other locations and we just opened a much larger shop in the Elmwood Village, very close by, and I just think this shop has kind of run its course. That's one. And the other is ABV, which is Allen Burger Venture, which I've always heard really good things about. I think I was there once. It's a while ago. So it's kind of on me that it's shutting down. But Allen Burger Venture recently posted on social media about its closure, saying the Buffalo food scene isn't what it used to be. The challenges of these changing times led to the decision. And the owner and head chef of Casa Azul, which is also right in Allentown, says foot traffic has gone down significantly. A lot of that has to do with the weather, and we lost a lot of bars on this street, unfortunately. The Pink burned down. I forgot that the Brick Bar had a fire. Town Restaurant closing. I didn't know that. And now AVB closing. Says it's been a hard year down here for sure. Don't wait until you hear about a closure to come support your favorite restaurants. It takes a lot for us to keep it going day in and day out, and your presence makes all the difference. That is true. It's definitely true. Support local business. Or local business can just go away. We don't want that. Do I want to read about Trump and Greenland? Not really. You know what I will do? I will go back to I always start the day at this Google News page. Let's see if anything jumps out. RFK Jr. says to eat more protein and less sugar. Okay. All right. We're getting somewhere. Kennedy's health department flips food pyramid to emphasize meat and dairy. Okay. That's like the big news. All right, let's check this out. New dietary guidelines. We'll use the USA Today version because that one probably will let me read it without closing down or making me log in or anything like that. I think I can do it. All right. New U.S. dietary guidelines announced today by Health Secretary RFK Jr. include recommendations for more protein, less sugar and ultra-processed food. It also loosened restrictions on alcoholic drinks. I'm listening. In a White House press briefing, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the announcement was aligned with President Trump's Domestic promise to make American healthy again. See, that's how we know it's not real. I mean, that could just be a typo by a human, but make American healthy again sounds like a robot pretending to be a person. You're taking me out of it. Don't take me out of it, AI. You got to be a little better. As Secretary of Health and Human Services, my message is clear. Eat real food, Kennedy said, calling the updated guidelines the most significant reset of federal nutrition policy in history. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins said the new guidelines encourage households and schools to prioritize whole, nutrient-dense foods. This means more protein, more dairy, more healthy fats, more whole grains, more fruits and vegetables, whether they're fresh, frozen, canned, or dry. We're finally putting real food back at the center of the American diet. Ultra-processed foods are essentially factory-made formulations produced largely from refined ingredients, additives, including colorings and preservatives, and little to no whole foods. Using artificial flavors and sweeteners, these foods are designed for more addictive, palatable tastes and longer shelf life. They're typically higher in sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats and devoid of nutrients and fiber. Kennedy said federal policy turned a blind eye to the disastrous consequences of promoting and subsidizing highly processed foods and refined carbohydrates. Quote, the hard truth is that our government has been lying to us to protect corporate profit-taking, telling us that these food-like substances were beneficial to public health. Today, the lies stop. New guidelines recognize that whole, nutrient-dense food is the most effective path to better health and lower healthcare costs. The new recommendations also removed restrictions on alcoholic drinks, which previously advised limiting intake to 1 or 2 drinks daily. That's interesting. Why? Why did they jack that up? Well, if you're not going to be able to eat Lucky Charms, you better have more whiskey. Is that the point there? And there's just a picture of breakfast cereals. Like, there's no chance any of these is good for you. Even the Raisin Bran Crunch, Rice Krispies, Fruity Pebbles, Lucky Charms, Reese's Puffs Minis. Cereal is candy, man. It's just candy. All right, so that's good. That's something, right? For, getting made fun of for being a worm brain and having a funny voice and being uber tan for some reason. Like, this is all smart. This is all correct. John Harbaugh's agent heard from at least one team that doesn't have a coaching vacancy. Where did we start the show today? I'm not anti-McDermott. I'm just telling you that if I were to decide if something goes wrong, especially this weekend, and the Bills are out again, and there is some sentiment that a change needs to be made, I'm suddenly at least listening because of Harbaugh. Some team that doesn't currently have a head coaching vacancy is apparently considering firing its head coach if John Harbaugh wants the job. That's the implication from Harbaugh's agent, Brian Harlan, who told Adam Schefter he received calls from 7 NFL teams expressing interest in Harbaugh. All right, so I was right at the beginning. Man, I'm pretty good at this sometimes. On occasion, I guess if you just keep talking and talking, eventually broken clock's right twice a day or whatever. But there are 6 vacancies, and I said I'd be shocked if all 6 of them didn't reach out, and they did. It says only 7 jobs are open, and one of those is the Ravens. That's right. It was 6 as of yesterday. Now it's 7, but the Ravens didn't call the agent. So at least one team that currently has a head coach wanted to gauge Harbaugh's interest. That raises some questions about the head coach hiring process in the NFL, where the Rooney Rule is supposed to guarantee that at least 2 minority candidates will get interviews for any head coaching job. But if some team is going to fire its current coach specifically to hire Harbaugh, then no minority candidate is going to get anything other than a sham interview to comply with the Rooney Rule. Basically, some team that currently has a head coach in place reached out to Harbaugh's agent to find out whether Harbaugh would accept the team's offer. If Harbaugh says yes, the team would fire its current head coach. Then the team would find 2 minority candidates to come in for an interview to satisfy the Rooney Rule. Then the team would hire Harbaugh. That might technically constitute compliance, but it wouldn't sit right with anyone who thinks the Rooney Rule should represent real opportunities for minority coaches rather than offering only the appearance of opportunity for minority candidates. If another team fires its head coach, that team will immediately face scrutiny about whether it's opening a legit coaching search or whether it has already decided that its next head coach is John Harbaugh. There's got to be an exception for this type of situation, right? I'm not firing my guy to interview a bunch of people. I'm firing my guy because I want that guy. You should be allowed to want that guy. It's a race to get to that guy. So now is it a race to hold sham interviews to make sure you can get to the guy before the other 6 teams with openings get to him? It's a good concept. The Rooney Rule is a good concept. And I think it's been effective for the most part in getting names and faces in front of decision makers and potentially creating opportunities. We've come a long way since the Rooney Rule kicked in. But if the only reason you want to fire your head coach is because you want to hire John Harbaugh, which I get. I mean, it's, again, I brought it up. It was the start of my show today. It's the first time I've ever thought about, well, I could see moving on if the Jags win this game and it's, you know, the frustration continues to mount with, like, what, you're wasting Josh Allen's career. Like, let's go. I could see where that could happen. You know, Tony Dungy in Tampa. Like, yeah, it's going well. We feel good here. But it's just not quite working. And then he's out and then Gruden's in and they win. I could see that. But you wouldn't fire Tony Dungy, and maybe, honestly, I don't remember how the timeline went down, but just apply it to this situation. I wouldn't fire Tony Dungy because we lost in the playoffs again, unless I knew exactly what I was about to do. And you can't hold multiple interviews for a coaching position and then fire your guy, and then we don't have to fake it. Maybe there needs to be a modification to the rule, or maybe the rule just gets ignored and they pay some fine, whoever the team is that wants to do this, and we get on with our lives. But there's a bidding war that's going to line up here, and if you want to be in on it, you've got to have a vacancy. And if the only reason you want to have a vacancy is to get in on the bidding war, why do I have to interview candidates I'm not planning to hire? I'm glad I refreshed. Full circle on this show today. Let me click on the sports one, see if there's anything new there, because that sports thing came from just the regular news. Harbaugh, college football. Bama QB Simpson announces intention to enter NFL draft. Ty Simpson. The Jaguars coach says about their mentality for their wild card game against the Bills, quote, "Our guys will be ready." I'm not going to open that one. That seems like the thing you would say. Former Texas football star Jordan Shipley hospitalized with severe burns after ranching accident. I'll read a story about a ranching accident. Former Texas star and NFL player Jordan Shipley was hospitalized after he suffered severe burns during a ranching accident. He was airlifted to a hospital in Austin and was in critical but stable condition, the family said in a statement provided by the university. Jordan was involved in an accident this afternoon near his hometown of Burnett. The machine he was operating on his ranch caught fire, and although he managed to get out, it was not before sustaining severe burns on his body in the process. He was able to get to one of his workers on the ranch who drove him to a hospital. He was then care flighted to Austin, where he remains in critical but stable condition. He was a receiver with the Longhorns from 06 to 09, and he was in the NFL for a little bit. The third-round pick of the Bengals. 4 touchdowns over 3 seasons with Bengals, Jaguars, and Buccaneers. Okay, close that one. I'm going to get through all of these, and then we're going to wrap up the show. No, I'm not going to do that one or that one or that one or that one. Oh, I guess the show is over. I guess we're done. Goo Goo Dolls, Parade Magazine, Verbatim, Bob Gone, John Harbaugh, Tom Morello, Stranger Things. And then I took stuff to swim. I took swim stuff to my kid during the show, live on the air. Oh, here's the last thing I want to say. When we were in here and I was leaving because I had to take the stuff to my kid's school, somebody in the comments was like, "Take us with you." And I was like, "I can't take you with me." And then I thought of a way I could do it, but then I realized I couldn't. So there was a brief moment where I went, "Oh, you know what I can do? I can open up the phone line. I will call in to myself. I will just pot it up as a call, and then I would just leave, like a cartoon image of my face on the screen, and then I could do audio only through the phone into the thing. But then I realized the phone I would be using to call is the exact same phone I would be using to receive the call. So if I left the call here, I wouldn't have a phone here, I wouldn't have a phone to take with me. And if I took it, I wouldn't have a phone here to receive it. And there's probably a way to do it just online, but that wasn't going to happen quickly. But it made me start thinking about, like, what else can we do with this? The show doesn't have to be from my basement all the time. I can move around. I've got portable stuff. Laptop's portable. All this stuff is portable. We can move around. We can go to a new site. I have a Google Voice number. That's the number we have. 716-288-5246. All right. Now I'm going to scroll through all the comments from the show and see what stands out, and then comment on any of those, and then we'll move on to we'll cut it short. We'll cut it short. We'll end it. We'll wrap up the show. It's 12:24. We're good. I gave you that extra half hour I was telling you about. No Merry Christmas after the Epiphany. Happy New Year's fine until like MLK Day, maybe at most. I could let that slide. Justin Tucker for president. Tucker has done some mild stuff compared to the actual president. Justin Tugger. Young Ho Koo, is he available? Blankenship. Rodrigo Blankenship. I will never hear Rodrigo Blankenship's name without thinking of the first time Mike Shope became aware of a kicker named Rodrigo Blankenship being in the league. And somebody said Rodrigo Blankenship, and he just went, Rodrigo Blankenship. And it was very funny to me. And he's got those goggles, and he's interesting looking, and his name is Rodrigo Blankenship. And I don't hate that idea. I would try Rodrigo Blankenship at kicker over the kid they signed to the practice squad yesterday, and the Prater, who's been very good, but man, that freaks me out that he dressed for the game and then wasn't available for the game. Like, you got to know that he's for real. Of course, you could re-injure it, and that's clearly what happened. But it's just tough. That spooked me. Luckily, it was a Week 18 game against the Jets. But when you go into a game with a kicker and then immediately find out you don't have a kicker, that's no good. So I don't think I can do that in the playoffs. But I also don't want this guy who's been on 9 teams in 5 years or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know what you do. What else is in here? Harbaugh got fired because he didn't fire Monken. Maybe. Grinder, yes. What does he do during the breaks? Oh, what do I do during the breaks? I stop talking. Mostly. Very often, I'm just sitting right here. I sometimes fill up a water bottle. I today was carrying stuff to my garage and then discovered that I had to take stuff for swim to my kid's school. But during breaks, I stopped talking. I went from whenever the show started, 10:12, I would say, until 11:29 or something without taking a break. I just talked for an hour and a half straight, almost. So I'd take a break and put music on so I could breathe and think. There's always stuff. I could get food, think about ways to take over the world. That's right. Bathroom is an option. I don't play NCAA football during the breaks. Whittling ducks. Nope, I don't whittle ducks. But there are many possibilities. That's correct. The people need answers. Brad don't care about playing the uncensored songs. No, I definitely don't. He also doesn't care about giving free ads for the Spotify advertisers. It's not free. That's the price we're paying to access the music. I don't mind it. It's so much easier. I was not using Spotify to play the music earlier from using it for my own app, but then I couldn't walk away and know that it would have me covered when a song ended. If I wasn't back in time to play the next song, no song would play. That's dead air. That's no good. Spotify is my friend, and I'm not paying for the premium service. It works great. I made a list of all songs I want, and yeah, you get some commercials mixed in. That's life. Where do you go that you don't get commercials mixed in? Sirius XM has commercials on it. That was supposed to be the deal. Cable was supposed to be the deal. You buy this, it's premium, and instead of us making money from you watching ads, we're making money from you subscribing. And then they just blend that together anyway, so I'm not doing it. Let's see. Wonder what Brad likes on his hot dogs. I'm pretty sure just ketchup. If I go to Ted's, I get everything, sometimes with extra hot sauce. I would not honestly ketchup with. If I could only put one thing, it would be Ted's hot sauce. I would definitely go mustard over ketchup if I'm just getting one thing. But I like the combo of mustard and ketchup. Like if I'm at a football game, hockey game, baseball game, it's mustard and ketchup. And if they have onions, I'll do that too. If it's easy enough. If it makes for a big mess, then no. Hot dogs overrated. Nick, you're not going to want to say that around here. As is pointed out correctly right afterward. Oh, no, that's not a good thing to say on Riter Radio. All right, is he ever coming back? Yes, I came back. He didn't forget his swim stuff. He doesn't want to swim at school. No, he forgot his swim stuff. He forgets everything. We did find... so drawstring bag was the term I was looking for. I was trying to find something to put... because it's like a shirt, a swim shirt, and a trunks and a towel. I feel like there might have been something else in there, too. And I can't just take that loose, so I needed a bag. I wanted one of those drawstring bags. I did not find one of those. I instead sent his stuff in a cooler bag. You know, like the reusable shopping bags, but they have some of them with the extra, like the metal on the inside that's for cold stuff or wet stuff or whatever. I took all the stuff in that, and it's an American Red Cross cooler bag. So I told the woman at the office, I'm here to save my son. That's how we know this. Stupid joke. That's what happened. I used to carry a Chicago Bulls duffel bag to my swimming lessons at the YMCA as a kid. I carry all my basketball stuff in a Yankees duffel bag, and I don't like the Yankees at all. But when I needed a duffel bag, and this was swim related too, it's when I had a membership at the Y, and I was going to start swimming all the time, and I did swim a lot, but then we moved. And now we actually live closer to a Y, but I don't have time. Anyway, I went to Target looking for I just needed a duffel bag, cheapest one available. And I found a Yankees one on clearance. I was like, oof. I'm like, at that point, actively anti-Yankees. At this point, I kind of just don't care. I don't have a team. It doesn't matter. But I had a Yankees duffel bag. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to buy it, and hopefully I'll get out of here without anybody seeing me with it. And then I'll just, whatever. It was way cheaper than anything else, and it had like the wet pocket thing for swim stuff. Like, I got to do it. I pick this thing up, I walk around the corner, and I literally run into, within 2 seconds of having this thing in my hand, Steve Cishon. I shouldn't say I literally ran into him. We didn't have physical contact. But literally within 2 seconds of me making the decision, all right, I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to get out of the store. I'm going to get over it. I just don't want anybody to see me with a Yankee bag. And there's Steve Cishon, presumably in a Red Sox hat, because he usually was at the time in a Red Sox hat. Big Red Sox fan. And then I, rooted along with him for the Red Sox for several years. And I felt bad. But that's still my bag. It still works. So when I go to basketball stuff, I do so with a New York Yankees baseball bag, or duffel bag. All right, just do the show on the road. Take us with you. I already explained that. Live stream on the road would be cinema. Hey, at least he thought about it. That's more than most would give. I did whatever I could to skip the swimming unit in school. I like swimming. My kids like swimming too. Then I pointed out that I had an idea, but then the idea wouldn't work. Appreciate the effort. My school didn't have a pool, so I learned to swim at the YMCA and at my home pool. Okay. Don't let goofballs distract me. I do. It's fine. I thought the guy who's number 8 on the rankings was Brandon Bean for a second there. Number 8 on the rankings. I don't know what that means. I haven't seen anything other than number 1 and number 2. When you chat, it ranks you based on the amount of content you put into the chat. So for today, Nick in Depew is ranked number 1 and AC Man is ranked number 2. Let's see. He said he'd be back by noon. If he's late, what do we win? Likely more fish. I cut the fish thing off. There's still 6 minutes left of the fish song. You got lucky. You only got 14. I could have cut it at like 12, but then it sounded like it was wrapping up, and I thought they were going to say, I feel good, and we're going to be done. School must be pretty close by. Yes, it's very close. The kids walk to school. I believe in him. Thank you, AC Man. Would have been electric to go along for the car ride. We'll figure something out like that. Is there anything else in here? Lunch, 5 minutes till 12. Can you count? Chicken fingers versus donut. Ryder has 5 minutes or he's late. I made it. Great. You got a podcast? It's on YouTube with no shows. It's not going to be very good unless you like hunting. A hunting podcast? I'll watch your hunting podcast or listen to your hunting podcast. Seeing if there's so much here. Brad, you are good. Made it back before noon. That's fire. What was the tune's name? The tune was Harry Hood. We already talked about that. Grit looks like a garbage man. Switching to audio only for the end. See you in a couple. All right, that's fine. AC, you're onto something. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Go Yankees. Click the XP number. What's the XP number? I don't know what that is. Top fans? This thing at the top? Maybe that? Oh, there we go. All right, let's see. So we've got ranking today. Maybe we should do rankings on here. AC Man 1, Nick 2, Coach 3. You call yourself Coach and use Bulldog's face. All right. Niagara Grit is 4th. Mike is 5th. Fargan Bastage 6. Patty 7. Ray 8. Ray, somebody in the chat thinks that you look like Brandon Bean. Ray looks nothing like Brandon Bean. I have a friend who looks like Brandon Bean. Like a 6'6" version of Brandon Bean. But that's the Honorable Ray Walter at number 8 there. He's no Brandon Bean. I'd trust him. I would trust him to run a team. But he doesn't look like Brandon Bean. Handsome devil, but doesn't look like Brandon Bean. All right, we're done. I'll be back with you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. This has been episode 238 of Riter Radio. Told you we'd go long. We're fine. Let's call it a day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.
What are you doing for lunch?
I don't know. I have a turkey sandwich.
We're gonna go around the corner. I think you should come with us. This is a great place.
I don't know. Okay.
We brought you a shirt.
Will you get out of here? Will you get out of here? Will you? Now, will you go to lunch? Go to lunch. Will you go to lunch?